I'm really trying to enjoy BO6 Zombies, and I've been continually frustrated with the direction of our storyline since DLC 1. So I decided to try throw this together, breaking down why I like and dislike each member of our crew, while also trying to understand how they're being mishandled using our previous game's narrative, Black Ops Cold War, as a point of comparison, at least for characters who are from that game. The first act of our narrative has been tainted by sloppy characterization and corporate mismanagement, killing the momentum of what could have been the Dark Ether storyline's highest point, reaching narrative highs we have not experienced since the original Ether storyline. Before we begin, I would also just like to say that my mic is absolute garbage, so I humbly apologize for any rough audio you hear over the next 40 minutes. It's also my first time working on a video like this, so please go easy on me or I'm just gonna cry. Let's roll the overly dramatic intro, which only uses the beginning steps of our storyline because that's been the most interesting part so far. Kick it.
Don't look at what's in front of you. Boost, moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. Try to think of something different. People going lunatic. Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war.
I'd like to start with Elizabeth Grey, my personal favourite member of the crew, who I really liked after reading all the intel in Cold War. I got aggressively queer-baited. Let me show you guys something real quick.
Thank you for everything, Liz. You've been a good friend. More than a friend.
Sam, it sounds like you're saying goodbye.
And I was really excited to see her presence in BO6. She's the scientist of our playable team. She's softer than Strauss, the older Dark Ether addicted scientist who's also in Cold War. She's a friendly and soft presence in the crew, which really helps to balance out like the overwhelming amount of edginess with Maya and Weaver. In Cold War, we get a little bit of insight into her kindness and how it's easily taken advantage of. In the first Outbreak quest, Samantha asks Grey to get her a radio while she's incarcerated, risking her own career for Samantha, and then they become friends. This is a pretty simple moment. It's nothing crazy. It's no crazy 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 Kino, but it's a simple display of character, of some personality. We can derive things about Grey. We know who she is from this moment. She's nice and she wants to help people. BO6 kind of lacks these little character moments that let us go, oh wow, this person thinks this person is like this. I like that person, or I don't like that person. Right now it's just a bunch of cardboard cutouts walking around shooting zombies. In BO6, Grey has toughened up considerably physically over the 6 years spent in prison. Like, god damn! Yet she never loses that kindness, that friendliness and warmth from Cold War. This shows up really well in the Terminus outro. She convinces Strauss to go along with the mission. She appeals to his emotions, to the fact that their friend is still trapped in the Dark Ether, kind of ignores the elephant in the room which has been continually ignored since Terminus. The crew agree to go kill Richtofen without any discussion of how it's going to be done. No objection from any characters, no, hey maybe we should do this, hey maybe this should be done this way. No discord amongst the group, there's nothing. It leads to that blank, tasteless feeling whenever you look at the operator's menu in BO6. I think Grey could have had a really powerful moment here. In a throwaway line, she mentions that she used to be a pacifist.
It's safe to say my pacifist days are over.
This pacifism is just wasted. I think a radio showing Grey opening up about her feelings regarding pacifism after spending 6 years in prison would be really nice. Like, is she really willing to go so far to get revenge? This could be discussed with another crew member while you play the map or in a radio. Stuff like that would really bring the characters together. Admittedly, she does seem more interested in saving her friend, Samantha, than killing Richtofen. But the writers brush past this potential moral dilemma, quickly killing any interest in what could be a really cool crew. The Elizabeth Grey established in Cold War doesn't feel present in Black Ops 6. And it's a shame, because I think there was some genuine potential for her to maybe be some form of an emotional anchor for the crew. A character who might appeal to more non-rational thinking, but we can genuinely empathize with her situation. Maybe she doesn't want to kill Richtofen. She would rather he get some tangible punishment for his crimes other than a bullet through the brain. I also just think that Grey's focus and emotional connection on Samantha should be absolutely expanded upon. Grey mentioning that she might miss her in a radio from Terminus. A letter, a little bit of dialogue would be nice. Just a goddamn speck of characterization, man. Just some... So far in Black Ops 6, at least as of Citadel, Grey just hopes that Samantha's alive, and that she can be as strong as her for the horrors awaiting as the story continues. This is fine, but it misses the deeper connection established previously. It's just some serious wasted potential. There is a literal AI personality of her friend present, and she doesn't really open up about it. On Citadel, there's one line mentioning that she finds the AI kind of disturbing, and this is really good. We just need a little more. Some more insight, some more juice, you know? Now, I'm not saying I want some fucking Blade Runner 2049 shit where they fall in love and whatever. That's not what I need at all. As funny as that does kind of sound.
What a day,
Grey's character is barely explored in BO6 so far, and this is indicative of the wider problem I have with the cast. There's no kind of consideration or genuine discussion of what they're doing and how they'll do it. Peck, a former villain, just says, "Hey guys, let's go kill Richtofen," and they just tag along, only insulting Peck along the way. It's fun, but any potential character growth or interesting story is lost. As I said earlier, some kind of discord among the group could be a great way to flesh out the characters, to get the audience to understand and care a whole lot more about them. When we care about our crew, or just the characters in a story, the narrative and the mistakes within it can just be kind of ignored. Like, come on, let's think about Primus and Ultimus. Their storylines are absolutely awful. They are messy, convoluted, and just unnecessarily weird, filled with mysteries that go nowhere and questions that are never answered. Yet, everyone loves Primus. I love Primus. I really think that Primus and Ultimus carry the storyline. They're such a likable crew that wider mistakes are just like, who really cares? I like the funny Russian guy and the funny gay German dude. I think our new crew could be just as great, if not better than Primus. The writers are just not taking any advantage of the characters they developed previously in Cold War, leading to eye rolls by the more casual community when talking about our new crew. Grey is a really likable character. As I said, she's my favorite for a reason. Cold War showed us her personal agency in the narrative. Her character trait of kindness was effectively used to progress and influence the ongoing story. In BO6, it's really just a matter of using her character to create some more meaningful dialogue and some agency for herself that actually resonates with players. The next character in our discussion, Weaver, is emblematic of how cool and interesting our new crew and characters could be. Weaver in Cold War was our main Requiem head, who kind of overlooked every operation, and he has a similar enough role in BO6 where he's kind of the leader of the group. He blames himself for the crew's incarceration at Terminus after Cold War, and he absolutely hates himself for it. Out of this hatred of himself seems to have come also a hatred of Richtofen, the man responsible. He is desperate for revenge. He takes any opportunity to say something about Richtofen in-game. Let's roll the clips.
Shots come real easy when I pretend the target's Richtofen. Hats off to whoever invented this, as long as it isn't Richtofen. I'm making a list in my head of people to use this on. Richtofen, Richtofen, Richtofen. At least this box can't screw me over any worse than Richtofen.
What a goddamn yapaholic. This gets excessive, like, let's not beat around the bush. It's an excessive amount of I hate Richtofens or I wish I could kill Richtofen. It's kind of grown into like a bit of a meme in the community alongside his excessive amount of cursing. Honestly, like sometimes when you play as Weaver after a while, it's like, what the heck is this guy on about? Like, but it's fun. I feel like a crucial aspect of Weaver's part in the narrative is being overlooked by Treyarch at the moment. Weaver's responsible for the death of Richtofen's family. All signs point to it. Intel in Cold War, some hints in BO6 as well. We can assume that Weaver's hiding this from our crew. Maybe him hiding it from the crew is making him feel even worse about what he did. Maybe he's feeling so guilty that he can't tell the crew because he thinks they'll hate him. But once again, we don't know. We haven't been told, there's no radios, there's no interesting dialogue, there's nothing as of right now. So far, Weaver has kind of gotten one interesting radio. On Citadel, there's a radio with an interaction between Carver and Weaver on their journey to Citadel. I really like this radio, so I'm just gonna let the whole thing play out for you real quick. If you'd like to just skip this radio in its entirety, just here's the timestamp. Go ahead, get out of here.
You're quiet. What's going on? Just coming to grips with the fact that I let Richtofen almost get us killed. Yeah, well, try not to dwell on it. It's embarrassing for a man at your station. Well, former station.
Cut the shit, Mac. Just admit the last 6 years are my fault. You should have left me to rot.
Stop. We just got started on whatever this is, and your woe is me bullshit is already wearing on my last nerve. I got no patience for it, and I really don't want to do anything rash. Like shoot you.
Might as well.
You know what? Shut the fuck up. Look, us ending up at Terminus. It was always Richtofen's plan. Hell, our cell assignments were a strategic move.
What the fuck? No.
Oh yeah. He probably figured if you, me, and Raptor 1 couldn't conspire, we'd be up Shit's Creek. So he put the docks between us to block comms, thinking that'd be enough. The fact that he thought Gray was gonna fold like a wet paper bag, that he didn't realize how strong she was, just shows how arrogant he is, and that is a weakness. A weakness we can exploit. Now, Strauss, poor man was never gonna be able to adapt, but he made it out, and that's not nothing.
Okay, you got a point. I still don't.
You sure you want to be contradicting a man who just threatened to shoot you?
Okay, I'm not gonna argue with that. But you're also right. This is Richtofen's fault. And when it comes to reasons to hate him, there's always room for one more.
Yep, fuck him. No more dwelling. We ain't got the time.
Keep in mind, this is the only moment in the storyline where Carver has had an ounce of life, and we will be discussing that in his own section later on. This is a damn good radio. We get to see a bit more Weaver's self-hatred. We get to see how Carver handles that, and how Carver emotionally handles that. He doesn't. He's a military dude. He's not gonna give him a hug and be like, hey man, let's go get a couple beers and you'll be fine, dude. It's a nice display of character, and like I've been saying and will continue to say until the day I die, this crew could be great. They just need more moments like this. More radios, more everything. They have the sauce. They just need someone to put it on. Treyarch not exploring the fact that Weaver is responsible for the death of a man's wife and kid is an absolute miss from them. This was the easiest slam dunk of their writing careers, and they just balled it. Revealing this to the crew is the easiest way they could develop the rest of the crew and give us an idea of who these people actually are. Revealing something like this could easily make the characters 100 times more interesting simply by how they react to it. Will they hate him? Will they still respect him? Will they blame him? Will they call him an idiot? Will they call him a dumbass for killing a dude's wife and kid? We don't know. And that's a waste. The storyline has tons of moving pieces. Sam, Richtofen, lore on maps as well. There's a lot of moving pieces here. And once again, our characters have very little involvement in that. And we're now at the end of Act 1, and our characters don't really feel properly established. The journey they're going to go on doesn't feel like a journey that's going to influence them. It's just a journey for journey's sake. A journey for the MacGuffin Sentinel artifact. So let's talk about Citadel. Citadel's cutscene is an absolute waste of what should have been an exciting start to DLC season. Let's talk about that. Kraft's final words to our crew is to not kill his adopted son, Richtofen. A fact that is revealed in Intel, so when I first played this map, I found that out and got spoiled at the big reveal of the cutscene, and it was just a waste of my goddamn time. Weaver is shocked to hear this from Kraft, and this moment really should have been used to flesh Weaver out a whole lot more. The shock on his face and the framing of the camera feels like they want us to focus on him, and then he just says nothing. Hell, even Gray says something. You know, she says the whole, he didn't know he was raising a monster until it was too late. In it, that whole jazz. And Weaver continues to just stare blankly at Kraft, dead on the floor. What else are you gonna do? This is an alright use of Gray's character. She wouldn't immediately jump to the conclusion that Kraft could be responsible for how Richtofen is. Never mind her leader. Weaver could have cut in here, stating that there might be more to the picture, or something similar. Framing him as a slightly more suspicious character who may know more than he's letting on. Gray could find this a little suspicious and then maybe ask him about it in a following map, creating a really nice map-to-map narrative and character connection, so it feels like the storyline and our characters are actually moving instead of chasing MacGuffins the whole time. Weaver's tone in the cutscene could indicate a little regret, just something to give us some depth, you know? Make this puddle of characters feel a little more like a pond, you know? Speaking of Richtofen, the narrative is spending a ton of time setting him up as the big bad, ignoring Cold War and the implications of that game once again. I feel like Cold War did a much better job making every side somewhat morally grey. Every character has done bad things or has been involved in bad things. They're not perfect people. There was an element of greyness to our characters. BO6 forgets about this moral greyness, or at least it just wipes it away into a, hey guys, we're gonna go chase down the bad guy. Time that could have been used to establish our characters a little more is instead being used to put Sam, AI Sam, at the forefront of our narrative, pulling the strings of our crew for whatever means she has. We don't know just yet. Our crew is being controlled by Sam, basically, and they have so little to say or do. Back to Citadel's cutscene, I'm not really sure what to blame here for why it's so rushed or bad. Maybe it's the AI concerns.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
This cutscene basically just pushes us to the next map. Ravenov cuts in before anything meaningful can be said. Let's go next map, guys. We are the Black Ops 6. Ooh. I might be forgetting. This section was meant to be about Weaver. Hold on. So, Treyarch avoiding the elephant in the room, or I guess the dead wife and kid in the room, in this case. I feel like Treyarch is saving some of these reveals for later DLC. But this backloading of reveals is gonna just lead to tons of exposition in the later DLC. This could overwhelm people who don't pay tons of attention to the story. And also, just backloading all of these reveals will just fall flat with the direction of the crew. Who cares what Weaver did if I don't care about Weaver, you know? Establish and develop these plot points early on, and then you can have it really pay off by the end. Alright, let's conclude with our one-eyed cursing maniac. I like him. But in-game, he can feel tone-deaf given the depression he clearly has out of game. Treyarch are wasting his role in the death of Richtofen's family as well. I guess I should put a big asterisk at the end of this and mention that the Weaver killing Richtofen's family thing is technically just a theory. A game theory! But seriously, they have set it up so damn well and hinted at it in so many different ways that if they just ignore it, they suck at their writing job. I think Treyarch could try to squeeze Weaver into a similar role of Primus Richtofen, someone who knows more than the rest of the crew, and this could then create a rift between the rest of them as the story continues, or it could help them grow closer as a crew. The rest of the Primus crew rarely trust Richtofen, and this distrust helped show us the crew's personality in their games. Obviously, I don't want Treyarch to just retread tropes from previous stories, but this is just a suggestion from me on how to make the crew and their interactions more interesting, since BO6 has been barely showing any initiative to use some really cool characters. Alright, who's up next? Let's flip through the script. Major Mackenzie Carver. Now, for some of the funny heads who've played BO6, you might expect my Carver section of the script to look a little bit like this. And for the true Major Mackenzie Carver heads, it could look a little like this. However, I am sad to report that my script is just words on a page. And I love Hatsune Carver. Seriously though, Carver in BO6 is basically nothing. He's barely a character. He's very rarely present in anything outside of that radio I mentioned earlier. This radio reminds us that he does indeed have a voice box. And also just gives us a decent perspective on who he is. He is a major. He is someone who focuses on the mission above anything else. He asks Weaver to shut the fuck up and lock in. Very rational, a very objective thing to do. He even rationally explains the crew's cell positions to Weaver. Like, Carver knows his shit. There's probably a few war crimes in him there somewhere. I think Treyarch could have Carver act as an objective and rational anchor for the crew, and then bounce that off of Gray and her kindness throughout the story. Let's have Carver rationalize and objectively analyze the crew's situation. Let him ask the hard questions and give some really tough answers to our crew. Let's once again shimmy back to Cold War for some points, as I've done too many times, but let's hear me out, okay? So on Firebase Z, most mid-map ever by the way, it's like the perfect encapsulation of what is a 5 out of 10 in zombies. maybe a 6 on a good day. The map actually has some pretty good lore bits. Sam is thrown to the Dark Ether by Peck before our crew arrive, and she seems to be regaining aspects or parts of her power from the previous universe. Now, when I just do that surface level description, it sounds boring, I know. But the map's Easter egg song and radios accompanying Samantha's journey through the Dark Ether are some of my favorite parts of this new storyline. It's so effective in establishing what happened to Sam and how she will change over Cold War's DLC season. So while she's trapped, she throws zombies at the firebase unknowingly or potentially knowingly. The game implies her control of the zombies by changing the round end music to include the classic maniacal laughter from World at War and some of the other zombie maps. Yes, I really wasn't that arsed to play Firebase, so I did just pull the game over music from YouTube. Credit to the guy in the description. It's cool game over music. You might also notice hints of the Origins outro. I think it's bar for bar the Origins outro, just slowed down a little bit. This isn't really relevant, but I fucking love details like this, so fuck you, it's my video. So, after the events of Firebase, Carver interrogates Sam about her role in the outbreak. He doubts her and seems to believe that she could be a genuine threat. He's thinking rationally here. He sees her as a risk after so much exposure to Dark Ether, and he plays a role in her subsequent incarceration prior to the events of the first outbreak quest. So, you might find yourself asking, why is any of this relevant? This is from a game from 4 years ago, it's from a boring map. I don't care. Well, by the time Terminus rolls around, Samantha has been in the Dark Ether for 6 goddamn years. Time does pass quicker in the Dark Ether, so we can assume she's been in there for at least a couple decades maybe. We, the audience, can assume she's a different person. All this time in the Dark Ether has to have changed her in some way maybe. Me, the player, can come up with theories that, oh, maybe Sam is responsible for all the outbreaks, whatever. She's been in there a long time, it makes sense. Our cast, our crew though, they don't come to conclusions like this. They don't make assumptions like this. I really think Carver should mention this, given his cunning and military intelligence we've been discussing. Our crew all acknowledge that she's still trapped in the Dark Ether. They question if she's alive, they hope that she's alive, and that's it. End of discussion. I think Carver bringing up Samantha's current status and questioning if she could be responsible for the outbreak at Terminus could be another spot where we could get some juicy character moments. The crew do question what could have caused an outbreak, drawing connections to Richtofen or maybe just a simple experiment gone wrong. But never to Samantha? Seeing our characters grapple with the possibility that they might have to kill a friend, not just Richtofen, could be another great opportunity to explore our characters' morals and create some more tension between the cast. Gray could deny any possibility of Sam being responsible for the outbreak, believing once again in her friend, holding out hope that she's okay. Carver could try to calmly and rationally explain that Samantha most likely isn't okay, explaining to Gray that there's no way she's fine. She might be the enemy, they might have to kill her. The rest of our crew can reflect on this and how it changes their journey. Are they really willing to accept this possibility? A moment like this, where Carver mentions that, hey guys, we might have to kill Sam, could quickly address Carver's cardboard personality and add a little more to him that the rest of the crew can then bounce off of, benefiting everyone and the momentum of the storyline's main characters. I hope I was able to show you that, Treyarch have actually established a solid character with Carver. They're just barely utilizing him for some reason. Carver is probably the smartest dude in our crew. This intelligence is barely being utilized, and it's a waste when the story could so easily use it to add more substance to our crew and their mission. Maybe Craig Houston just has a weird vendetta against Carver, I don't know, or AI concerns, or whatever. We could go on and on about excuses why they aren't using characters. Our next character is a whole lot different from Carver. For one, she has gotten a whole lot more time to shine, but she might be getting a little too much time to shine, to the point that she's kind of overshadowing the rest of our crew. As bad as that does sound, luckily her story could be integrated incredibly into our revenge narrative, to offer us some more of that much needed insight into our crew over the DLC season. Maya is the new character to our crew. She wasn't present in Cold War at all, and she now works with Peck to rescue our crew from Terminus. I would say that Treyarch introduced her to help players who haven't experienced or totally enjoyed Cold War's narrative. A way to accommodate new players, which I'm glad they did, by the way. Who the hell would want to play as Strauss anyway? The geriatric bastard. Or maybe, I mean, come on, I would maybe A Raptor 1 operator would be really nice though. Like, come on, man. My dreams of a Raptor 1 operator may be dead. But at least Maya's pretty cool. She's a pretty cool little character. I like her. I think she has probably been the most fleshed member. Fleshed? What? The fuck? That's actually in my script. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Fuck. God, okay, so I think Maya has probably been the most fleshed out member of our crew, with a lot of screen time in Terminus and Citadel so far. Her stake in the rescue of our crew is her brother Nathan, who is also imprisoned on the island. She does find him, conjoined with what could be like 5 other people, and we sadly have to put him down in a little boss fight during the Easter egg. Interestingly, during the cutscene after we beat Nathan, Carver offers to put him out of his misery. This has been Carver's biggest contribution to cutscenes so far, by the way. As of the tomb, this has been the most dialogue he's really gotten, which is really sad. I found it really funny, to be honest, on repeat playthroughs. Carver just charging in to kill someone's brother. Damn, bro, you get to kill like thousands of zombies. This one dude should not be that important. Yet, after trying my best to understand Carver as a character in the previous section, I think we can recontextualize this moment into another massive missed opportunity for Maya and Carver. We established Carver as a rational man. He does what is best for the mission. I think this moment could be him trying not to compromise Maya's emotional well-being. Killing a sibling is rough, and he could have been trying to save her from the mental toll. Obviously, she's still going to be struck with grief. She's still going to be in absolute agony over the death of her brother, but I think Carver might be seeing this as a, oh, but you didn't pull the trigger, so you don't have to beat yourself up as much. Carver is trying his best using his military experience to help her through the rest of the mission. This is me reading really heavily into this moment. Yeah, it just exemplifies Treyarch's sloppy handling of our characters. A little radio between Maya and Carver, or some dialogue after this moment, could work really well to develop their interpersonal relationship, and to develop a genuine bond between our characters that is more than just, hey guys, we need to kill people. Continuing with the rest of the Terminus quest, the crew and Maya track Dr. Modi down for her crimes. Modi being the head honcho of Terminus, and also responsible for all of the awful experiments on the island. With the help of AI Sam, we get her ass, and the giant squid monster, Patient 13, obliterates her. Once we slay Patient 13, we transition to the ending cutscene, where Sam informs the crew of her plan to save real Samantha from the Dark Ether. Maya's attention perks up at the mention of Franco, the human trafficker who sent Nathan to Terminus. Maya plans to hunt him down, and what do you know? He's on the very next map our crew go to, Citadel de Mor, or however else you want to pronounce it. We have our 2 revenge plots running together, but Maya's concludes a lot quicker than our crew's. She gets revenge on Citadel in a really cool bonus cutscene. A cutscene that, by the way, is the same length as our final cutscene on the map, so I think they may have put a little too much emphasis on Maya in the early steps of our narrative. But hey, maybe they are doing their damnedest to make sure people get hooked on her as a character. I mean, me and my friends certainly did after finding the cutscene. In the cutscene, Maya puts Franco down coldly, admitting that her revenge is for her, not Nathan.
Oh, he wouldn't want this?
This isn't for Nathan.
Maya has gotten her revenge so early in the narrative, yet she doesn't offer anything to the crew about how she feels about revenge? Was it really worth it? Does she believe in the crew's mission for revenge more or less now? As of the tomb, she admits that she also wants Richtofen dead, so she'll keep tagging along with the crew for now. But that's kind of it. Starting a dialogue between the crew could be really easy and effective here. Maybe she could reinforce Weaver's lust for revenge. Will her murder of Franco even change the system that led to Nathan's demise? I'm not expecting Treyarch to make a wide statement or offer an intriguing analysis of human trafficking. That's not the point. I just want some insight from our crew. That basic dialogue to create character, to create tension, to create friction, to create people, man. Treyarch should encourage us and our characters to ask questions about revenge. Hell, these can be some really basic questions, like if revenge is even really worth it. I really don't mind, because so far our crew has so little to work with. Including conversations like this makes our cast more human, more likable, and allows us to emotionally or ideologically connect with them, leading to people developing favorites, which will quickly shift community sentiment about our crew into a positive direction, rather than just pure memes. I have to admit, when scripting this, I actually didn't have much to add to Maya, and while doing voiceover, I still don't. I think she's been well enough handled when compared to the rest of our crew, especially Carver. My biggest concern with Maya is that she's gotten her revenge so early on. Where can she go from here narratively? especially if the writers fail to use her tale of revenge to comment on the rest of the crew and their hunt for revenge. It's once again a matter of how the crew and their individual stories have not been used to effectively create a meaningful dynamic between them as people. They still feel like cardboard cutouts. I hope this breakdown of my feelings about the characters can help you understand my frustrations with how this story is absolutely wasting some of the best characters Zombies as a mode has gotten in a long while. Now that I've covered my issues and suggestions for the crew in their own individual sections, I want to just yap for a little bit about issues I've had with the integration of our crew as a whole alongside some wider issues I'm having with the narrative. Hearing the return of a dedicated crew brewed up so much excitement for me. Like, hell yeah, I really couldn't wait to be experiencing these maps in the eyes of actual characters, not just generic operators. Unfortunately, the crew is rarely expressive on the locations we explore. There's a lack of interest from them in some really unique locales. For example, let's take Terminus, a map absolutely brimming with atmosphere, and has some really cool world building in the intel, and especially the use of the living world mechanic to show zombies overpowering security. This feature is really cool on paper. But a living world should be more than just a player seeing spooky stuff. It should be about our characters seeing and reacting to the worst science has to offer. The world might be alive, but our characters certainly aren't. More lines from the crew mentioning their experience in prison would be nice, acknowledging that they've heard of these experiments from guards, or just constantly heard screams echoing throughout the prison. This extra bit of dialogue can really connect our characters to the world a lot more, giving them some more agency and allowing further player immersion in the story. There's so much happening on Terminus and the rest of the maps our crew are on, yet they have so little to add that is of genuine substance. Most of our crew spent 6 years here, yet they have so little to say. Weaver does throw out a little, "I hate this place and can't believe it was funded by America. It's nice to stretch my feet a little." Dialogue like that kind of is all the crew have to say. It's very generic for Weaver especially, who has more than experienced in the wacky spending of the US government. This bare-bones dialogue could be fine when accompanied by more reflective dialogue enlightening us on each character's experience here, which BO6 has sadly lacked. BO3 and BO4 does this kind of character map interaction a whole lot better, plopping unique lines of dialogue for a handful of points of interest on each map. My favorite example of this is probably on Der Eisendrache. When each character walks into Samantha's room, they all react in different ways to the room and why it's there, and it just adds a lot more intrigue to our maps and crew.
This was child's room. I feel it is wrought with pain and sorrow.
The stories Richtofen's told about this place. Wonder if this was his room.
I remember this room. I remember Samantha. She is no longer here.
These older games also had unique dialogue when playing solo, which further expands upon the characters, and is overall just a cool little detail. Now, BO4 has tons and tons of dialogue, so it could definitely be argued that that game is leaning in the direction of too much yapping, but BO6 feels like Treyarch haven't done enough to flesh out these characters and their personal experience of the maps as you play them, and it makes the characters feel a lot more bland than they actually are. Treyarch seems to have learned some really good lessons from Cold War and Vanguard. Obviously a crew is a good thing, but Treyarch have applied some of their lessons from previous games a little too sloppily in BO6, especially with the intel system, which I'll get into later. Another element of our new storyline that has been shockingly mishandled is our reintroduction of the Chaos storyline, or I guess elements from it. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Chaos storyline in BO4, so I'm not quite as offended at its use here in BO6, but it's felt like nothing more than lazy fan service from Treyarch. The Sentinel artifact, for example, is nothing more than a MacGuffin for our cast to chase down over DLC 1 and 2. They could tell this same story with 100 other made up mystical artifacts, and it would be the exact same. Nothing changes here, and that's my problem with it. Chaos has some cool lore, and while I don't engage a whole lot with it, it's seen a huge resurgence within the community. The choice to kind of dumb down this lore into something that so neatly fits a role of an object for our characters to chase is a really big shame. I kind of wish that Zombies would go back to a story packed full of details hidden away that then reward a player for genuinely taking interest in the world presented, even if sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially in Cold War's case. More intel and just more of everything would go a really long way for BO6, as my interest has just waned over the DLC season. Speaking of intel, Black Ops Cold War overwhelmed me and I'd say most of the community with its hundreds of audio logs, letters, and reports by the end of its life cycle, leading to most people missing some of the crucial developments over the storyline and the development of our Requiem handlers. Treyarch definitely noticed the community sentiment around Intel, as the approach to Intel in BO6 is drastically different. There's a whole lot less Intel, and its focus seems to be mainly on fleshing out the narrative of individual maps and wider world building, telling us how these places worked and the history behind them. This intel is great. It's really cool to learn the history of these locales, and it's a level of world building that Treyarch should absolutely maintain. Learning about Patient 13 in particular is really cool. Unfortunately, Treyarch might have had a little too much fun with the guillotine, chopping intel away, as there's a lack of intel involving our crew, which is another contributor to our characters' lack of development or any interest in them. When the in-game dialogue and cutscenes offer so little insight into our characters, it could be partially saved by some extra intel. Radios showing us interactions between the crew, as I've suggested, can fill in the wide gaps in their personalities. It's not a perfect fix and will probably leave the game narratively in a place like Cold War, way too much homework, but it could really add up to a solid story. It would be something at least, and we're getting so little that I'll take whatever at this point, man. The Carver-Weaver radio on Citadel we discussed is the best example of Treyarch fleshing out our crew through intel, and I really hope Treyarch gives us more of this before it's too late for our crew. So, our cast is destined to die. Modern Warfare Zombies confirms our Cold War handler's demise in the late 90s under somewhat mysterious circumstances. Peck and Maya's fates are currently unknown. Our characters make some kind of sacrifice around the table. What this sacrifice entailed is currently unknown. It could involve a failed attempt to save Samantha, a failed shutdown of outbreak zones, and I could go on, but I won't. This moment has the potential to be absolutely heartbreaking, but I don't think it will quite stick the landing in BO6, given the fact that we don't care about our cast in BO6, for the reasons I've been listing for the last 30 minutes. We've gotten so little reason to, due to Treyarch's failure to properly monopolize on the characters excellently set up in Cold War. Let's compare this moment to Richtofen's death in Blood of the Dead in Black Ops 4. It's an effective and heartbreaking moment because of the journey in Black Ops 3. We learn more about him through the maps and his desperation to survive the cycles, and be himself, not some other Richthofen. BO6 has failed to properly build up to this kind of moment. The poor use of our crew's personalities will weaken every single moment in the narrative, a narrative that does offer plenty of intrigue. Now, with our crew in BO6, their death could be retconned through some form of time travel or dark ether tomfoolery. There's plenty of theories about this within the community at the moment, so who knows what could happen. My criticism is technically ongoing as the game's DLC cycle hasn't wrapped up yet, but I'm mostly just frustrated with the first act of our storyline. Some of this frustration could evaporate if the ending is satisfying, or is a whole lot different and better than what we've been getting so far. We have something here with so much potential that seeing Treyarch waste it has just been depressing in a game that is overall pretty damn good, all things considered. And I really hope that the writers can pull through for future DLC. Guys, let's try to have faith in Craig and the Zombies team. So, fuck Activision. When Citadel released, Samantha's voice actor, Julie Nathanson, was replaced because of the ongoing voice actor strike over a lack of protections against AI. God, this is just an infuriating situation, especially when the Dark Ether storyline was meant to finally pick up some momentum with the release of BO6. This is an issue exclusively to blame on Activision. I'm not gonna dogpile on the writers. After all, we'll never know what goes on in the writing room. As much as I'd love to be a fly on the wall when Craig Houston and the zombie team throw ideas around, I can criticize how the writers reintroduced our crew in Terminus without actually giving us a complete view of how they've changed from their 6 years in prison. After that though, I'm gonna just blame Activision. Let me be real, like the Tomb and Citadel is most likely their fault. BO6 had a pretty solid setup with Terminus, and the ARG before launch was really cool and creative, giving us an update on our crew through the reports on the Truth Dies site. Really cool stuff. I am absolutely going to blame corporate control influencing the story and leading to the swift fall off we see in DLC 1 and 2. A lust for profits and endless growth turning a work of passion, a work of art, into nothing more than a product. The potential of this storyline is absolutely going to be limited by Activision not complying with the basic demands of voice actors. The Tomb's cutscene is a sign of this already happening. A cutscene where nobody speaks except for the one person, Sam, has already been replaced with a new voice actor, because as I said, Julie Nathanson is on strike. How in God's name can the Zombies team create a meaningful story with emotional cutscenes or likable characters if nobody can say a thing because their corporate overlords are cowards? The failure to recover Samantha by the end of the story, and maybe AI Sam betraying our crew, are gonna flop if Julie Nathanson does not return to the role. The new Sam actress is just not it at all. No offense to her, she just shouldn't be playing this character. Hell, our crew finally meeting Richtofen is gonna be ruined. Nolan North is also on strike after all, so unless he recorded these lines last year, we're screwed. These character voices we've known for a decade, characters we've laughed and cried alongside, are gonna be swiftly replaced because of nothing more than corporate meddling in a genuine work of art. Running alongside all this AI garbage is the rumored return of the original Primus/Ultimus crew, Dempsey, Takio, Nikolai, and Richtofen. I don't like the sound of this at all, to be quite honest. This is probably not an exact replication of their Primus and Ultimate counterparts, but I really don't care. These characters are done, their stories have been told, and I felt like their ending was a satisfying ending that wraps up their stories in a tragic and beautiful way. If that is enough to convince you that maybe their return isn't worth it, maybe you're someone who didn't like our crew's end in BO4, I ask you this. After watching me try my best to analyze how our crew in BO6 has been absolutely wasted despite being some great characters and just having some sloppy writing and then the AI issues, can you really trust for these returning characters to be effectively used as something more than key jingling and nostalgia baiting for an audience who won't give zombies the time of day outside of a game's launch period between mindless matches of multiplayer? Best fucking believe that on the launch day of the next Treyarch Zombies experience, if our OG crew return, there will be bundles in the store selling their Primus and Ultimus versions as skins for 20 bucks each, probably totaling up to like 160 doubloons for every skin, probably including some AI generated art that is just pure uncreative slop, nickel and diming one of the most dedicated fan bases that they truly don't deserve. Wow, that was a lot to get out of my system. I have to admit, I was really hoping that this video would be shorter, but hey, I had a lot of fun making it. I hope you enjoyed yourself a little bit. This video was a mess to make. This is my first time really learning how to use editing software and all that jazz, and it was a mess, but I hope I at least got a little chuckle out of you, or at least made you think a little bit about the storyline. This game has been absolutely confusing me over the last couple of months, so I hope I got that vibe across at least a little bit. I hope you can at least somewhat agree or understand my critiques of the story and my own personal readings of the characters. If you don't, hell, I'd love to hear your opinion. Call of Duty has a super toxic community, so I think constructive and fun conversations like this are sorely needed to help us further our enjoyment of the mode without just killing each other every time a new one comes out. I'd also just like to thank my girlfriend for being willing to listen to this video over and over again for any audio edits I needed to make. And to my friends who offered feedback on the introduction edit. I love you all, and you made this video a whole lot more fun. And to whoever's watching, I hope you have a damn good one. Take care of yourself.